Extra breaking news. So today we're going to be learning one of the strategies that reporters use to write their articles. Okay, just remember that they don't have an unlimited number of words to write what they need to. So that's why they need to be concise, and they need to be to generate a lot of impact, so the readers can keep reading what they have written. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of the articles that I found, okay, with the structure that we're going to be practicing today. So the first one is a statement from Cornwall Fire said it is believed to be an arson attack. Coronavirus woman, 106, believed to be UK's oldest patient to recover from COVID-19, leaves hospital. 10 pioneer-era Apple types thought to be extinct found in US West. Then the global economy is expected to shrink by 3% this year. And finally, Trump's new press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany is known to defend racism. Okay, so you probably have noticed that there are some missing words in some of the sentences, which is quite normal if you are a reporter. Okay, it's kind of a trademark. You need to write in that way, so it sounds like, well, that you're a reporter. However, you and I are not reporters, so you and I have to actually write the complete sentences with these subjects and the verbs as they must be. Okay, so anyway, setting that aside, I'm going to show you exactly what I need you to focus on. And here it is. It is believed to be an arson, believed to be UK's oldest patient, thought to be extinct, expected to shrink, well, is expected to shrink, and McEnany is known to defend racism. You probably have already detected the main topic here, and yes, you're right, passive voice, lovely passive voice. Okay, so you have already seen a lot of years that what passive voice is, and with different tenses, and you even check it before we went on holidays, okay? And you have already seen the part of reporting verbs, which is used, or well, which are used in reporting statements and in the part of reported speech. Now we're going to mix them both together to create a new thing, okay? So what we are actually going to be doing is the part of having a reported statement, and then use a passive voice to make it nicer and much more professional. So I would like to start checking these extracts, the same ones that I have already circled. And the question here is, who said these things? Who said that the apples are thought to be extinct, or that McEnany is known to defend racism, or that this lady is believed to be the oldest patient in UK? And probably the answer is a bunch of people, okay? Or maybe a group of specialists or a group of scientists. But actually, it's really irrelevant. Who cares, okay? And that's why we're using passive voice here. Remember that passive voice is going to take the doer of an action into a second place, or even disappear it, as in these examples, and it's going to be taking the receiver of the action and put it in the spotlight, okay? That's what passive voice does. In this case, and the mixture with the part of passive voice with reporting verbs, is that you already have a reported statement, as I've already mentioned, and now you're going to apply the passive voice to make the thing that the person said much more important than the person, okay? So before we start, I just want to mention a list of verbs that are the most common verbs when you're doing this transformation, which are consider, expect, feel, know, say, suppose, think, and understand. You don't actually use many other verbs, okay? You just keep using these 8 verbs to make these transformations, okay? Okay, so let us start. I have taken one of these extracts, the one about Kayleigh McEnany is known to defend racism, to work with, okay? And just let's see, how was the active voice sentence? And here is it. People know that Kayleigh McEnany defends racism, okay? So, as in any other sentence, as these normal sentences that we write most of our lives, okay, in active voice, okay? You need to have a subject, which is people, and then a verb, which is know, and then a complement, which is the rest, okay? The funny thing about this complement is that you actually have a clause, which is a subordinate clause. And let me clarify what a clause here is, okay? A clause is just a small sentence that is part from a bigger sentence, obviously, okay? So this small sentence on its own cannot convey the whole message that the person who's saying it or writing it wants. And that's why this belongs to this bigger, fuller, and much more precise sentence that is actually giving the full message, okay? So again, a clause is just this part of a sentence that on its own looks like a sentence because it has a subject, a verb, and in some cases, as in this one, you have a complement. But just check it out. This is your whole sentence. This is a tiny one that belongs within it, okay? That's why you're going to find out that you have two subjects, two verbs, and, well, this complement and this other little tiny complement, okay? But anyway, this is the first subject, the person who does the action, okay? So please keep those elements in mind, okay? Now we're going to make the transformation from active to passive, okay? So we have the original sentence. People know that Kayleigh McEnany defends racism. And so we're going to be following 4 steps to do it, okay? The first one, you need to identify the subject of your clause, okay? So we already know that is Kayleigh McEnany. And we're going to be using this subject to start our new passive voice sentence. There it is, okay? Second step, you need to identify the reporting verb, and it's know. And with this verb, well, this verb needs to be transformed into passive voice, okay? And you need to keep the tense. In this case, it's present simple, so let's go with present simple. Now, step number 3, you need to identify the clause verb, the second verb, which is defense. And that one, you need to put it into an infinitive, which is here. Fourth step, you just need to complement your sentence with the rest of the valuable information, which is in your clause, actually, which is racism. And now, voila, we have the sentence. Kayleigh McEnany is known to defend racism, okay? Racism, oh my gosh. Okay, so here's it. Another example. People expect that the quarantine will finish by the end of May. And so, step number 1, identify the subject of your clause, the quarantine. Use it as your subject. Step number 2, identify the reporting verb, here is it, and transform it into passive. Voila, keeping the tense, present simple to present simple. Step number 3, identify the verb of your clause, the second verb. Okay, so we have will finish, and transform it into an infinitive. Here is it. And then fourth, complement with information or the rest of the information that is in your clause, which is there. And voila, you have now your passive voice with reporting sentences sentence. Okay, reporting verb sentence. The quarantine is expected to finish by the end of May. So let's recap the steps. Number 1, find the subject of your clause. Use it as your subject to start your passive sentence. Step number 2, find the reporting verb and keep the tense. Please, it's really, really important. If you're in simple, keep it in simple. If you're in continuous, keep it in continuous. If it's in present, present. If it's in past, past. If it's in future, future. If it's in perfect, of any of those mixtures, okay, keep it in that perfect tense, okay? Always. Number 3, find the clause verb or the second verb, but that might be a little bit confusing. So just find the clause verb, okay, the one that was after your clause subject, and use it in infinitive. And number 4, add the rest of the information, especially of your clause, the part of the beginning, the person, the people, the doctor, it doesn't matter. We're erasing that part, okay? And practically, that's it. 4 steps, no more. Anyway, I would like to complement a little bit more in this part of use the infinitive, okay? So please remember that the thing that I'm going to explain just in the next couple of minutes is related to the second verb, to the verb of your clause, the one that you transform into infinitive. I'm not going to be explaining how to create a passive because you have already practiced that and you already know that. And if not, please check the exercises that you were supposed to do or that you did before the holidays, okay? So here is it. I'm going to focus on this part of the use of the infinitive. The infinitive, how to use it, okay? So for the infinitive, we are going to be dividing it into simple structures and continuous structures, okay? So whenever you have something simple, and it's going to be identified with this orangey yellowish color, okay? You're going to be using the next. If the verb of the clause is in present simple or any kind of future, you're going to use this infinitive and the normal infinitive, the classic infinitive, to run, to see, to pay, to eat, to jump, to kite, to seek, whatever, okay? You're going to be using that one. If this second verb, this clause verb, is in past simple, in past perfect simple, or in present perfect simple, you're going to be using the infinitive of to have. This is the only infinitive that you will be using, plus a verb in past participle as something complementary, okay, to be more explanatory. To have run, to have seen, to have paid. That would be the combination. Why? With infinitive, as we have already mentioned, they are not tenses. It's just a verb without conjugation. But with these strategies, we can give a little bit of sense of something like now and something before. Not exactly a present, nor a future, nor a past, but something similar to that, okay? So you can actually give the sensation that something is now or closer to now, and the one that has already happened is before the now, okay? So again, it is not a tense, but it's the sensation that this usage of words are going to give you, okay? Then we have the part of continuous, which is practically the same. Present continuous is going to be using to be, that is infinitive, plus an ing because it's continuous. And so you have to be running, to be seeing, to be paying. Then you have the part of past continuous, past perfect continuous, and present perfect continuous. The combination is to have, infinitive, and then to make the continuous, been, and then an ing. To have been running, to have been seeing, and to have been paying, okay? And that's a combination. These are for the simple tenses, and these are for the continuous tenses, okay? And remember, any kind of future goes here. I'm going to be a little bit more explanatory with some examples. So here we are. How to use infinitive with examples. Again, simple tenses, and I've written these examples. My students expect that classes will resume in May. So remember, I'm not going to be explaining how to use the passive voice here. I'm explaining how to use the infinitive with that clause verb, okay? So classes are expected, here's your passive, to resume in May, to resume. So notice that this is future, so anyway I use an infinitive, a normal infinitive. Then they thought that the plane had crashed in the Rocky Mountains. I have a past perfect here in my verb of the clause, okay? So the plane was thought to have crashed in the Rocky Mountains. Here's your passive, and here is the infinitive that you need to use. And if you even read it, sounds really great if you imagine that you're exactly journalists, and then you start writing this thing like, oh, the plane was thought to have crashed in the Rocky Mountains. Okay, wow. It has much more impact than just they thought, okay? Now, let's see the chart for the continuous tenses, okay? We have people think that Jacob Sartorius is making a lot of money. So the transformation goes to Jacob Sartorius is thought to be making a lot of money. So here is it, your passive, and here the infinitive that I'm explaining in this moment. And finally, people know that Billie Eilish has been singing since she was 8 years old. And now the transformation, Billie Eilish is known to have been singing since she was 8 years old. Okay? So can you see how this looks much more professional and nicer than just this thing, okay? And that's why the relevance of teaching this stuff. So guys, that's it. That's all the explanation. Remember that you have now the video and that you can check it as many times as you need just to have this topic clear, okay? And now we're going to come back to our class so I can actually answer your questions related to this topic. And so let's continue.